Hello, sleepy friends. Welcome to your sleep story. Tonight, we'll drift into the quiet, colorful world beneath the waves, a place where sunlight filters down in gentle columns, where currents move like slow breath, and where entire cities of coral grow in patient, ancient rhythms. Coral reefs have a way of calming everything around them. They rise from the ocean floor like underwater gardens, like living sculptures built one tiny polyp at a time, creating homes for countless creatures in waters that pulse with slow, steady life. And as the reef breathes with the rhythm of the tides, it turns the underwater world into something magical, a seascape made of color and movement and profound stillness all at once. In this story, we'll wander through some of the most soothing, surprising truths about coral reefs, how each coral polyp builds its home in darkness, how entire ecosystems move in synchronized harmony, and why tropical waters feel timeless, peaceful, and strangely comforting when a reef thrives below. You'll learn how coral grows slower than fingernails, why fish sleep in coral caves at night, and how the smallest creatures create structures visible from space through centuries of patient work. All of it told quietly, slowly, so your mind can settle as gently as sand drifting to the seafloor. So, wherever you are tonight, beneath warm blankets, beneath dim light, or simply letting your eyes rest, take a slow breath in. Let it fall gently out. Feel the air around you. Grow calm. Feel your thoughts drift downward, like bubbles rising in reverse, sinking softly through clear water toward the peaceful depths below. If you enjoy these sleepy journeys, you are welcome to like, comment, or share them with someone who might need a little peace tonight. It helps others find their way here, to this quiet underwater path with you. For now, let the world grow hushed, let the night grow soft, and let the gentle truth of coral reefs carry you slowly into rest beneath the surface of tropical seas, in waters warm and clear. Something extraordinary happens so slowly, you could never see it with your eyes. Here, in the sunlit shallows where light still reaches the ocean floor, tiny creatures, no bigger than a pencil eraser, are building cities. Stone cities. Cities that will outlast empires, that will grow for thousands of years, that will become homes for millions of other lives. These builders are called coral polyps, and their patient work creates one of the most remarkable structures on Earth, the coral reef. A coral polyp is a simple creature, almost impossibly small. If you could hold one in your hand, it would look like a tiny tube of soft tissue, translucent and delicate, with a circle of tentacles at one end surrounding a mouth. That's all it is. No eyes, no brain as we understand it. No complex organs, just a soft body with tentacles that wave gently in the current, catching even tinier particles of food as they drift past. But despite their simplicity, coral polyps possess one extraordinary ability. They can take minerals dissolved in seawater, calcium and carbonate, and transform them into solid stone. They secrete this stone beneath themselves, building a hard limestone cup that becomes their home, their foundation, their fortress. This cup, called a corallite, protects the soft polyp body from predators and waves. And once the polyp has built its stone home, it never leaves. It stays there for its entire life, continuing to build, adding layer upon layer of limestone, growing upward and outward with patience that defies imagination. The process happens slowly, so slowly. A single coral polyp might add only a fraction of a millimeter to its skeleton in a year. Some species grow faster, perhaps a few centimeters annually. Others grow even more slowly, taking decades to add an inch. This is not the frantic building of humans, not the rush of construction and completion. This is stone accumulating like snow, like sediment, like the patient work of wind-carving canyons over millions of years. But coral polyps don't build alone. Each polyp is connected to its neighbors, sharing tissue, sharing resources, sharing the work of construction. When a polyp divides, creating a clone of itself, the two remain connected. These clones divide again and again, and slowly, over months and years, a coral colony forms. What began as a single polyp becomes dozens, then hundreds, then thousands, all connected in living stone, all working together to build something larger than any individual could create. Different species of coral build in different ways, creating a stunning variety of shapes and structures. Some corals grow in branches, reaching upward like the limbs of underwater trees. These branching corals, delicate and intricate, create tangles of stone fingers that sway gently in the current. Fish weave between their branches, seeking shelter in the spaces between. Other corals grow in massive domes, round and solid, adding layer upon layer in concentric circles. These are the brain corals, named for the maze-like patterns their polyps create as they grow. Running your hand over their surface, you'd feel ridges and valleys, grooves that wind and fold like the surface of a brain, though they're cool and hard as stone. Some corals form flat tables, horizontal platforms that spread wide to catch as much sunlight as possible. Others grow as tall pillars, standing upright like columns in an ancient temple. There are corals that look like plates stacked one atop another, corals that form delicate lace-like fans, corals that grow in spirals and waves and shapes that seem almost impossible, as if an artist carved them from marble rather than tiny animals, building them cell by cell. Each coral polyp shares its life with another organism, a partnership so intimate that neither can survive without the other. Inside the polyp's tissues live millions of microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. These algae are golden brown, and they give coral its color, the yellows and browns and subtle greens that glow in shallow water. The algae live safely inside the polyp's body, protected from the open ocean, and in return they perform a kind of magic. Through photosynthesis, these algae capture sunlight and transform it into sugars, into energy, into food. They share this food with their coral host, providing up to 90% of the polyp's nutritional needs. In exchange, the polyp provides the algae with a home, with access to sunlight, with nutrients from its own waste. This is one of nature's most successful partnerships. Two completely different organisms living as one, each making the other's life possible. This is why coral reefs grow in shallow, sunlit waters. The algae need light, and so the coral needs light, deeper than about 150 feet. Where sunlight begins to fade, most reef-building corals cannot survive. They need the sun as much as any garden needs sun, and so they grow in the bright shallows, spreading across sea floors bathed in tropical light. As individual colonies grow, they begin to merge with neighboring colonies. Branches intertwine. Massive domes grow until they touch. The spaces between fill with smaller corals, with sponges and algae, with the shells of dead organisms and the sand created by parrotfish grinding coral to powder, slowly, incrementally. Over decades and centuries, the reef rises from the seafloor. What began as scattered polyps becomes a continuous structure, a living architecture of stone. The Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system on Earth, has been growing for approximately 20,000 years. 20,000 years of polyps secreting limestone, of colonies expanding, of storms breaking sections, and new growth filling the gaps. The result stretches for over 1,400 miles along the coast of Australia, visible from space, a testament to what can be built when tiny actions accumulate across vast spans of time. But even smaller reefs carry this sense of deep time. A brain coral the size of a car might be 500 years old, growing steadily through centuries of human history, through wars and revolutions and the rise and fall of civilizations. Touch its surface, and you're touching stone that began forming when Shakespeare was writing his plays, or when the Americas were first being explored by European ships. The coral doesn't know about any of this. It simply grows, adding its microscopic layers, patient and persistent, creating permanence from the temporary. During the day, most coral polyps remain withdrawn into their stone cups, their tentacles retracted, their soft bodies hidden. The reef looks solid, static, more rock than living thing. But as daylight fades and evening approaches, the reef transforms. Polyps begin to emerge, extending their tentacles into the darkening water, unfurling like tiny flowers opening to the night. This is when coral feeds most actively. The tentacles are lined with stinging cells, microscopic harpoons that capture zooplankton, tiny shrimp-like creatures that rise from deeper waters as darkness falls. Each tentacle waves slowly, sensing the water, waiting. When it touches prey, the stinging cells fire, paralyzing the small creature, and the tentacle draws it down toward the polyp's mouth. This happens across the entire reef. Millions of polyps feeding simultaneously, the stone garden coming alive in the darkness. If you could float above a reef at night with a dive light, you'd see the transformation. What appeared as solid rock now looks fuzzy, soft, almost furry with the extended polyps. Colors that were muted during the day become more vibrant. The reef breathes with life, each polyp reaching out, each one contributing to the slow, patient work of building, always building, even as it feeds. And this building never stops. Even at night, even as polyps feed, they continue secreting limestone, even in storms, even during the cooler months when growth slows. The process continues. The reef grows while you sleep, grows while you work, grows while seasons change and years pass. It grows with the patience of mountains being lifted, of rivers carving stone, of all the slowest processes that shape our planet. There is something profoundly soothing in this slowness, in this accumulation that cannot be rushed. In a world that often demands speed, efficiency, instant results, the coral reef offers a different wisdom. It suggests that the most enduring things are built gradually, that patience creates permanence, that small actions repeated across time can create something immense and beautiful. The polyps don't worry about the final form. They don't have a blueprint or plan. They simply do what they do, each one adding its tiny contribution. trusting in the process, in the accumulation, in the slow architecture of stone. And somehow, from this simple repetition, from millions of individual creatures each doing their small part, entire underwater kingdoms emerge. Tonight, as you imagine these tiny builders working in their warm, clear waters, think about the patience they embody. Think about how something so small can create something so vast, how the slowest processes can build the strongest structures. Let your own thoughts settle like limestone, layer upon layer, each one adding to a foundation of calm. Let yourself trust in slowness, in the gentle accumulation of rest, knowing that the deepest peace, like the strongest reef, is built one quiet moment at a time. The polyps continue their work, unaware of your awareness, unaware of anything except the simple rhythm of their existence. Build, feed, build, feed, build. And in that rhythm, in that patient repetition, there is a kind of meditation, a lesson in being present, in doing what needs to be done without urgency or anxiety. Just the steady, quiet work of living, of growing, of creating beauty one tiny increment at a time. Let that rhythm become your rhythm now. Let your breath slow to match the patient work of coral. Let your thoughts settle like sediment, drifting down through clear water, coming to rest on the sea floor. The reef is building. You are resting. Both are exactly as they should be, moving at exactly the right pace, held in the gentle arms of time that stretches long and patient and kind. The reef does not exist in stillness. It breathes, it pulses, it follows rhythms older than any clock, older than any human measurement of time. These are the rhythms of sun and moon, of tide and current, of day becoming night, becoming day again. And every creature on the reef knows these rhythms instinctively, moving with them, resting with them, living within patterns so reliable they become a kind of comfort, a promise that tomorrow will come, and the day after, in their own steady time. As dawn breaks over the reef, the first light filtering down through clear water, the day shift awakens. Fish that spent the night tucked safely in coral crevices begin to emerge, stretching fins, adjusting to the growing brightness. Parrotfish are among the first to stir. These remarkable fish sleep in a most unusual way. Each evening, they secrete a mucus cocoon around their bodies, a transparent sleeping bag that masks their scent from predators. All night they rest inside this protective bubble, and at dawn they break free, ready to begin their important work. Parrotfish are the gardeners of the reef, the sculptors. They have hard, beak-like mouths made of fused teeth, perfect for scraping algae from coral surfaces. As they feed, they also consume bits of coral skeleton, grinding it up inside their bodies. What emerges from the other end is fine white sand. A single large parrotfish can produce hundreds of pounds of sand each year. This means that much of the beautiful white sand on tropical beaches, the sand that feels so soft beneath your feet, was once coral, processed through the patient digestive system of parrotfish, transformed from stone to softness. As the parrotfish begin their grazing, other day creatures emerge. Butterfly fish flutter between coral branches, their bright yellow and white patterns catching the morning light. Damselfish establish their territories, tiny but fierce, defending their small patches of reef against much larger intruders. Wrasses of every colour weave through the water, some picking parasites from other fish, some hunting for small crustaceans hidden in the coral. And then there are the cleaner stations, one of the reef's most remarkable examples of cooperation. Certain fish and shrimp set up permanent cleaning posts, usually near a distinctive coral formation. Other fish come to these stations, sometimes traveling from far away, and wait their turn. Even large predators, fish that could easily eat the tiny cleaners, hover patiently, allowing the small fish to pick parasites from their scales, from their gills, even from inside their mouths. There's an understanding here, an agreement. The cleaners provide a service, and in return, they're safe from becoming a meal. It's a system built on trust, on mutual benefit, on the kind of cooperation that makes survival possible. As morning deepens into midday, the reef settles into its most active period. Schools of fish move in synchronized patterns, hundreds or thousands swimming as one. Their movements are hypnotic. The way they turn together, shift direction in perfect unison. It looks choreographed, but there's no leader, no plan. Each fish simply follows 3 simple rules. Stay close to your neighbors, move in the same direction they move, avoid collisions. From these simple rules, breathtaking complexity emerges, patterns that flow like silk, that pulse like heartbeats, that create shapes in the water as beautiful as any dance. But not all fish are active during the day. Some are waiting, resting in caves and under ledges. These are the nocturnal hunters, the night shift, saving their energy for when darkness falls. Moray eels lie coiled in crevices, only their heads visible, watching with patient eyes. Octopuses rest in their dens, compressed into impossibly small spaces, their soft bodies able to squeeze through any opening larger than their hard beak. They'll emerge after sunset, flowing across the reef like liquid, changing color and texture with astonishing speed. The tide breathes in and out, twice each day, bringing fresh water rich with nutrients and oxygen, carrying away waste. This tidal breath creates currents that flow through the reef, gentle rivers in the sea. Soft corals and sea fans sway in these currents, bending gracefully. These are the corals without hard skeletons, flexible and feather-like. They extend their polyps during the day, unlike their hard coral cousins, feeding on particles carried by the current. Their swaying creates constant subtle movement, the reef breathing visibly, inhaling and exhaling with the water's flow. As afternoon arrives, the intensity of sunlight reaches its peak. Some fish retreat to shadier areas, seeking relief from the brightness. Others continue their work, triggerfish using their powerful teeth to crack open sea urchins, angelfish browsing on sponges, surgeonfish grazing algae in peaceful groups. Each species has its role, its niche, its way of contributing to the reef's balance. And then, as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, the reef undergoes its most dramatic transformation. This is the changing of the guard, the transition between day and night shifts. It happens gradually, but you can sense it, a shift in energy, in awareness. Day fish begin returning to their sleeping spots. They've learned which crevices are safest, which coral branches offer the best protection. Some fish wedge themselves deep into tight spaces. Some lie on their sides on the sandy bottom, appearing almost dead, but simply resting. Some hover in the water column, entering a state that's not quite sleep as we know it, but a kind of wakeful rest, aware enough to flee if danger approaches. The parrotfish return to their sleeping spots and begin producing their mucus cocoons. The wrasses disappear into the sand, literally diving beneath the surface and wriggling down until they're completely buried, safe from predators, invisible until morning. Butterfly fish pair up, mated couples that will stay together for life, settling near each other in the coral branches. And as the day creatures settle, the night shift emerges. The moray eels slide out of their crevices, hunting along the reef. Octopuses flow from their dens, shape-shifting across the coral. Lobsters emerge from caves, their antennae sensing the water. Crabs scuttle across the reef in the darkness, feeding on detritus, cleaning up, recycling nutrients. The night reef has a different feeling, quieter in some ways, more active in others. The large schools of day fish are gone, replaced by solitary hunters, but there's also more feeding happening, more polyps extended, more tentacles waving. The hard corals, which kept their polyps withdrawn during daylight, now bloom like flowers. Every coral head becomes fuzzy with thousands of tiny tentacles, all capturing the zooplankton that rises from deeper water after dark. And once each year, on certain reefs, something truly magical happens. Mass coral spawning. For a few nights following a full moon, usually in late spring or summer, many coral species release their eggs and sperm simultaneously. Millions upon millions of tiny bundles drift upward through the water. It looks like an underwater snowstorm in reverse, pink and white and orange bundles rising toward the surface. The synchronization is remarkable. So many different coral species, all releasing at once, ensuring that eggs and sperm will meet, that fertilization will happen, that the next generation will begin. This is the rhythm the reef follows. Day into night, night into day, spring into summer, into fall, into winter, and back to spring. Tides rising and falling, moon waxing and waning, fish waking and sleeping, coral feeding and resting, everything moving together in patterns that have repeated for thousands of years, patterns that will continue for thousands more, as long as the reef remains. There is deep comfort in this regularity, in knowing that the reef follows rules, that tomorrow will look like today, that the patterns are reliable. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, the reef offers something different. It offers rhythm. It offers routine. It offers the peace that comes from knowing your place, from understanding the cycle you're part of, from moving with the current rather than fighting against it. Tonight, as you imagine this reef breathing with the tides, fish settling into sleep in their coral beds, night creatures beginning their slow patrols, let yourself feel that rhythm. Let your own breathing slow to match the gentle pulse of the ocean. Let your body understand that it too follows rhythms, that it too knows when to be active and when to rest. Trust in your own internal tide, the one that's pulling you now towards sleep, toward the quiet darkness where your body does its healing work. It's growing, it's restoring. The reef sleeps, but not all at once, not completely. There's always something awake, always something keeping watch. And you can sleep completely, deeply, because you don't need to keep watch. You can surrender to the rhythm, let it carry you. Let it rock you gently into the peaceful darkness where dreams swim like fish through coral branches. Colorful and fleeting and beautiful, light behaves differently underwater. It bends, it softens, it transforms as it descends. When sunlight strikes the ocean's surface, some of it reflects back to the sky, but much of it penetrates, diving down through the water column, beginning a journey that will change everything about how we see. The first colors to disappear are the reds. Within just a few feet of depth, red wavelengths are absorbed by the water. This is why many deep-sea creatures are red. In the depths where no red light penetrates, being red makes you invisible, black in a blue world. But on the reef, in the shallows, where sunlight still reaches, reds are present, vibrant even, though more muted than they would appear on land. As you descend deeper, oranges fade next, then yellows. The water becomes increasingly blue, cooler in tone. This is why the reef looks so different depending on your depth. At 10 feet, you might see a rainbow of colors, brilliant reds and oranges, bright yellows and greens. By 30 feet, the warm tones have muted considerably. By 60 feet, the world is predominantly blue and purple. And deeper still, in the twilight zone below where most reefs exist, only the deepest blues remain, fading eventually to black. But in the shallow reefs, where sunlight floods down in brilliant columns, the colors are extraordinary. Brain corals glow in shades of brown and green, their surfaces looking almost golden in direct light. Branching corals might be pink or purple, blue or cream. Table corals spread in shades of tan and olive, and among them, sponges add their own palette. Brilliant orange barrel sponges, purple tube sponges, yellow rope sponges. They cluster on the reef like a painter's palette, each color more vivid than seems possible. The fish add even more color. Parrotfish in their rainbow scales, blue and green and pink all mixed together. Queen angelfish in electric blue and yellow. Damselfish in cobalt blue so bright it almost glows. Royal blue tangs, yellow tangs, purple tangs. Clownfish in their iconic orange and white. Butterfly fish in patterns of yellow and black, black and white. Every color evolution could create is displayed here, and displayed boldly, without shame or hiding. But underwater color isn't just about the organisms themselves. It's about how light moves through water, creating effects impossible in air. On sunny days, when the surface is calm, sunlight creates moving patterns on the seafloor. These patterns, called caustics, are formed by waves on the surface acting as lenses, focusing and dispersing light. The result looks like a constantly shifting web of bright lines dancing across the sand, rippling over coral. It's hypnotic to watch. These patterns that never repeat exactly, that flow and pulse and create the impression that the ocean floor is breathing light. When you look up toward the surface from underwater, you see something called Snell's window, a circular view of the world above, compressed and distorted. Outside this circle, the surface acts as a mirror, reflecting the reef below, creating the illusion that the ocean extends upward as well as down. It's disorienting and beautiful, this doubling of the world, this uncertainty about which way is up. Some corals possess another kind of color, one that only reveals itself under certain conditions. They fluoresce. When illuminated by blue or ultraviolet light, they glow in colors that seem impossible, electric greens and hot pinks, brilliant oranges and purples. This fluorescence serves various purposes. Some scientists think it protects the coral from too much sunlight. Some believe it helps the symbiotic algae photosynthesize more efficiently. Whatever its purpose, the effect is stunning, like the reef has been painted with luminous paint, glowing from within. At dawn and dusk, the reef takes on yet another quality of light. These are the blue hours, times when the sun is below the horizon, but its light still filters through the atmosphere and water, creating an even diffused illumination that has no obvious source. During blue hour, the reef seems to exist in a dream, all colors muted to shades of blue and gray, shapes softer, distances harder to judge. It's a liminal time, between day and night, between visible and invisible. Some divers say this is when the reef is most beautiful, when it's most itself, stripped of bright colors, reduced to form and movement and the play of light on texture. And then there's night, true night on the reef. When humans first began diving at night, they expected darkness, but they found something else. They found that the reef glows. Bioluminescence created by tiny organisms, by plankton and algae, by some fish and invertebrates. When disturbed, these creatures flash, creating trails of light in the water. Move your hand, and it leaves a glowing wake. Kick your fins, and sparkles scatter like underwater fireflies. It's magic made real, light created by living things. Cold light that doesn't burn, that exists only to communicate or confuse or attract. Some fish have bioluminescent patches, using them to find mates or lure prey. Flashlight fish have pouches under their eyes filled with glowing bacteria. They can cover and uncover these pouches, creating a blinking signal in the darkness. It looks like they're taking photographs. Flash, flash, flash in the black water. But even without bioluminescence, even with only artificial light, the night reef reveals colors that hide during the day. Corals that look brown in daylight might glow red or orange at night. Polyps that were attracted show their true colors, extended and feeding. The reef becomes a garden of tentacles, waving gently, each one tipped with color, whites and pinks and pale greens. The way color behaves underwater changes how creatures use it. Camouflage becomes different, more complex. An octopus can change not just its color, but its texture, becoming smooth or rough, matching the coral it's hiding against with such precision that it becomes invisible. Even when you know it's there, even when you're staring right at it, your brain refuses to see it. It's there, and then it's not. Moving in ripples of color and texture, each change happening in less than a second. Some fish change color based on mood. Damselfish might be blue when calm, but shift to darker shades when aggressive. Parrotfish wear different colors at different life stages. Juveniles in one pattern, adults in another. Even males and females often look completely different, like they're not even the same species. And some colors underwater serve as warnings. Bright colors that say, "Don't eat me, I'm toxic." Nudibranchs, sea slugs without shells, crawl across the reef in patterns of orange and purple, electric blue and hot pink. They have no protection except their toxins and their colors that advertise those toxins. And it works. Predators learn. Bright colors equal bad taste. dangerous chemicals. Leave me alone. There's something dreamlike about underwater color, about the way it shifts with depth and time of day, about the way it appears and disappears, about the way it seems more saturated and yet more muted than colors on land. It's like seeing the world through a filter, like everything has been dipped in blue, like you're viewing reality through stained glass. Photographers who work underwater talk about how different it is, how they have to bring artificial lights to reveal the true colors, how their images sometimes don't look real, too colorful, too vivid. People think they've been enhanced, but they haven't. That's actually what's there, under the surface, hidden from casual view, revealed only when you descend, when you enter that blue world and see what light becomes when it has to travel through water to reach your eyes. Tonight, as you imagine yourself drifting over a shallow reef, sunlight streaming down in golden shafts, caustic patterns dancing on the sand below. Let the colors wash over you. Let them be gentle. Let them be soft. Imagine the way they blur at the edges, the way they blend into each other. Blue fading to green, fading to gold. No hard lines, no sharp contrasts, just gentle gradients of color that flow and merge like watercolors running together on paper. Let your thoughts become like those colors, less defined, more fluid. Let them blend into each other until you can't tell where one ends and another begins. Let them soften into blues and purples, the colors of deep water, the colors of evening, the colors of rest. And as the light fades, as the colors dim, let yourself sink deeper, deeper into the gentle blue darkness, where all colors become one, where everything simplifies to the essential, to the quiet, to the peace that exists beneath all the brightness, in the soft, dark, endless blue. Sound travels differently underwater, faster, about 4 times faster than it does in air. This means that underwater, sound reaches you almost instantly, but also from everywhere at once. It's harder to tell where a sound originated. It seems to come from all directions, surrounding you, filling the water. This creates an acoustic environment unlike anything we experience on land, at once more immediate and more diffuse, more present and more mysterious. The reef has its own soundscape, its own symphony of small noises that blend into something larger. Listen carefully, and you'll hear the snap of pistol shrimp. These tiny shrimp have one oversized claw that they can snap shut so fast it creates a cavitation bubble. When this bubble collapses, it produces a sound like a tiny gunshot and a flash of light and heat that momentarily reaches the temperature of the sun's surface. All of this from a shrimp the size of your thumb. Across a busy reef, hundreds of these shrimp might be snapping, creating a constant crackling, like underwater popcorn, like static, like the reef itself is talking. And then there's the sound of parrotfish feeding, the crunch and scrape of their beaks against coral. If you put your head underwater near a feeding parrotfish, you can hear it clearly, a grinding, a crunching, the sound of stone being slowly reduced to sand. It's oddly satisfying, this sound, rhythmic and purposeful, the sound of work being done, of the reef being shaped and reshaped, consumed and recycled. Some fish make sounds deliberately. Groupers boom, creating low-frequency sounds that resonate through the water, warning other fish away from their territories. Grunts grunt, making sounds by grinding their pharyngeal teeth, bones deep in their throats. The sounds serve various purposes. Some are warnings, some are mating calls, some seem to be simply communication, conversation, fish talking to fish in languages we don't fully understand. But despite these sounds, the overall impression underwater is of quiet, not silence, but a muffled, peaceful quality, as if the world has been wrapped in a soft blanket. Sound doesn't echo underwater the way it does in air. It doesn't bounce and amplify. Instead, it spreads, fades, becomes absorbed by the water itself. This creates an intimacy, a sense that sounds are closer than they are, and also farther, existing in a space that doesn't follow the rules you're used to. Movement underwater is slower, gentler. Water is much denser than air, about 800 times denser. This means everything encounters resistance. Every motion requires more effort, but also everything gains a kind of grace. Fish don't dart, they glide. They don't rush, they flow. Even the fastest swimmers, barracuda or jacks, seem to move with a smoothness impossible in air. They're not fighting against the medium. They're working with it, using its resistance to control their movements, to execute turns that seem impossible, to stop and start with precision. For human divers, this resistance changes everything. Movements become deliberate, slow. You can't be hasty underwater. You learn quickly that fast movements waste air and energy. You learn to slow down, to move minimally, to let the water support you, to trust in buoyancy. Once you achieve neutral buoyancy, neither sinking nor rising, you can hover in place with almost no effort. Breathing becomes your adjustment. Inhale and you rise slightly. Exhale and you sink. It becomes a meditation. This breathing, this hovering, this being suspended in blue space with nothing above and nothing below. Just water in all directions and you floating in the middle, weightless, timeless, at peace. Watch a sea turtle swim and you'll see the perfection of slow motion. Their flippers move in lazy sweeps, so slow you think they couldn't possibly provide enough propulsion, but they do. The turtle glides through the water with effortless grace, occasionally pumping its flippers, mostly just riding momentum. It's never in a hurry. It has nowhere to be except where it is. Nothing to do except what it's doing. There's a lesson in that, in the turtle's pace, in its calm presence, in the way it exists completely in each moment. Sand settling after being disturbed is another form of slow motion. When something touches the bottom, a ray burying itself, a diver's fin, fish rooting for food, particles lift into the water column. For a moment there's a cloud, a swirl. Then gravity begins its patient work. The heavier particles settle first, then the lighter ones, drifting down like snow. Some particles might take minutes to complete their journey back to the bottom, hanging suspended, catching light, creating a haze that slowly clears. Soft corals and sea fans sway with currents, but their movement is almost imperceptibly slow. You have to watch for a while to see it, to realize that they're moving, bending, flowing. They look like plants, but they're animals, each one covered with polyps, each polyp filtering water for food, and they sway, back and forth, in rhythm with the current's pulse. It's hypnotic, this swaying, this gentle rocking, like watching grass blow in wind. but slower, much slower, underwater slow. At night, the reef becomes even quieter. The day sounds fade. The pistol shrimp continue their snapping, but it sounds different in the darkness, more isolated, more distinct. Fish are less active. Many are sleeping or resting. The reef breathes more softly, more deeply. The current continues its gentle flow, invisible in the darkness, felt rather than seen, moving water through the coral branches, carrying nutrients, carrying oxygen, carrying the scent of life. Divers who spend time on reefs at night talk about the profound sense of isolation, not loneliness, but solitude. The darkness above and below makes the reef feel like its own world, a pocket of life in an ocean of black. Your dive light creates a tunnel of visibility, but beyond that tunnel, darkness, complete and absolute. And in that darkness, the reef continues, extending beyond what you can see, vast and ancient and patient. There's something meditative about being underwater. Many divers describe it as the most peaceful experience of their lives. The slow breathing required, in through the regulator, out in bubbles that rise and spread, becomes a rhythm you can't rush. Each breath visible, each one a reminder that you're alive, that you're here, that in this moment, breathing is enough. The sense of weightlessness contributes to the peace. On land, we're always fighting gravity, supporting our body weight, feeling pressure on joints and spine. Underwater, all of that releases. You float, you hover. The water holds you, supports you completely. You could fall asleep like this, suspended, held, safe, and the silence, or near silence, creates space for thoughts to settle. There's no music, no conversation, no traffic noise, no phones ringing. Just the sound of your own breathing, the occasional creak of your gear, the distant sounds of the reef. It's a sensory deprivation of sorts, but one that doesn't feel like deprivation. It feels like simplification, like the world has been reduced to its essentials: water, light, life, breath. The reef exists in a kind of timelessness. Minutes feel like hours. Hours feel like minutes. The sun moves across the sky above the surface, but beneath the waves, the light just gradually brightens, then dims. No sudden changes, no harsh transitions. Time becomes fluid, measured not by clocks, but by air consumption, by the tide, by the slow journey of the sun. And the reef itself, the coral, has a relationship with time that makes human time scales seem fleeting. That brain coral you're floating beside, it was there before you were born. It'll be there after you die. It measures time in decades and centuries. Your visit, your presence, is barely a heartbeat in his long life. And there's comfort in that, in knowing that some things persist, that some things continue regardless of our brief passages through them. Tonight, imagine yourself sinking, slowly, gently, down through clear water. The surface above you growing more distant, the light softening, shifting toward blue. You're neutrally buoyant, weightless, suspended in liquid space. You're not falling because there's no down. You're just drifting, being held. The water is warm, comfortable. You could stay here forever, floating in this blue space, breathing slowly, hearing nothing but the gentle rhythm of your own breath and heartbeat. Below you, the reef comes into view, soft and shadowy. Its details become clearer as you descend. The gentle swaying of sea fans, the texture of coral, the slow movement of fish seeking evening shelter. Everything is calm. Everything is slow. Everything is exactly as it should be. You settle gently onto the sand beside the reef. Or perhaps you don't settle. Perhaps you just hover there, suspended an inch above the bottom, held perfectly between rising and falling. In this moment, you need nothing. You want nothing. You are complete. The water holds you. The reef surrounds you. The blue wraps around you like the softest blanket. Your breathing slows even more. Each breath deeper. Each exhale longer. You're so relaxed now, so perfectly calm that you barely need to breathe at all. The water breathes for you. The ocean breathes for you. You're part of its rhythm now, part of its gentle rise and fall, its eternal tide. And as the light continues to fade, as the blue deepens to indigo, to violet, to the softest darkness, you let yourself sink just a little more, not into the sand, but into sleep, into rest, into the quiet kingdom where the reef keeps its eternal watch. And you, finally, completely, let go. The water holds you. The darkness embraces you. The reef breathes around you. And you, safe in this liquid world, this peaceful kingdom, this timeless blue space, you sleep deeply, peacefully, held in the gentle arms of the ocean, rocking slowly, slowly, to the rhythm of waves you can no longer hear, to the pulse of a world that continues, patient and eternal, while you rest, while you dream, while you drift, in the quiet, in the blue, in the endless, peaceful, dark. Thank you. Thank you. Reef.